priority if we're going to see it coming up here for Gumayusi. He has been, I think, maybe our best Jhin player in the LCK as it slowly gains some popularity. The Ezreal ban is just, T1's like, no, we're not going to do that. Guma also a fantastic Ashe, so that's going to be taken away. I think that's a good idea from Gen.G too.
Maokai gone from Canyon. I think that's a completely reasonable ban. Now we're looking at some of the other picks here, like the Vi potentially. Rumble, they're going to take it away for safety. I do feel like Zeus is a little bit happier to play into Rumble than Keen will be, as Zeus has just been so good at playing the range matchup.
And he first picked Cork Ears.
It does look like that's what they're fishing for with the Illusion ban. I don't think that it's necessarily going to be banned here by Gen.G. As again, with that Ezreal ban on blue side, they get a free ban here, essentially. Could go to something like the Vi. Yep, and that's what they're going to do. Take away the possibility that Vi Ahri, Faker's Ahri was pretty fantastic in that win against D+. So first pick Corki does feel like it is pretty self-explanatory here for the side of T1's a safe pick.
Yeah. Might also consider something like an Azir, but I think especially with Chovy's Zeri mid performances, you might want to, be a little bit careful with that.
Now, will Chovy play Draven mid against Faker is the question. The Zeri pick, I think stocks went way up with that Ezreal lock, can still be technically a flex. And I do think that, it's a bit of a risk to try to play Draven mid when you've got Oner on the other side, because he may actually punish that crushing lane. And one of the big questions we had today was, will either of these jungle players play Shyvana? Canyon ends up picking up the Nidalee here. The Renekton's still open. And Oner was hovering that Shyvana. But he will lock the Lilia here. A very unexpected pick here. A very rare and niche AP jungle pick as we get the Kalista locked.
Yeah, Kalista just by herself. And, we don't really know where that's going. Even could be played in the top lane. We saw Keen was playing that against Bro. And, maybe T1 take a little page out of their book and say, well, Zeus can do that as well. Or it could be Keria, it could be Guma. What is this final pick going to be? You mentioned the Renekton, but they're just going to go for Cassante instead.
Yeah, they don't go for the Renekton here. They want to have a stronger front line for this Zeri. And the Kalista flexibility is definitely a potential concern about picking something like a Gnar that we've seen a lot of our weaker teams kind of lean on and play here in this R3 spot. Very blindable in a lot of matchups, but I don't think that is the case here against T1, especially with that Kalista face up. In terms of bans now, it's a little bit tricky. If you think that Kalista is going to go top, I don't think it is. I think it is going to be played bottom lane to try to crush the Zeri lane. You could ban some strong supports for it, but Keria's pool is so big they'll instead take away some of Zeus's counter picks to the Cassante.
Yeah.
The Vayne is gone. The Twisted Fate may follow.
Yeah, we haven't seen too much Twisted Fate. We've seen it here and there, even in mid lane from Showmaker. But yeah, that has been a big one for Zeus into the Cassante. A lot of discussion here.
Yeah,
from both of the teams in the second phase of banning, which I think is definitely granted, as it's Gnar, actually.
Okay. Leona take it away. Now, T1's read is this still could be a Zeri going mid into the Corki. Really tough matchup to play out, but it is Chovy, and it is Faker, who has had some struggles on this Corki. In matchups he should have been winning, he has often kind of fallen flat. So let's see what the plan is going to be. Senna here, the hover, and that would, of course, lock that Zeri mid. Ornn still available, and because we've already crested the second ban phase, it's very difficult to pick that one away. They could try to play it in the top lane here. Not a ton of synergy, though, with the rest of this draft. Interesting situation here that T1 find themselves in now. Still very weak into Kalista, though, mind you, this Senna pick.
Keria, a lot of thought as maybe Mordekaiser here for the top lane, you would assume. And yep, the Nautilus is going to be locked in there for Keria. Always said that he loves to just play Nautilus, even amongst all the crazy picks he does.
The Ornn feels pretty easy here. You have such an insane front line for a real AD carry in mid, and then this insanely strong scaling Senna pick that will become this extremely long-range threat that you won't be able to get to very easily because you have to go through the Ornn that will be farming, you have to go through the Cassante, and you're also going to have this Nidalee threat that's going to be constantly harassing you as you approach objectives. And in terms of Mordekaiser ult value, it's relatively low here. It's going to be tough to lock Nidalee down because she's going to be so far away. You get one of the frontliners, there's another one that you have to still go through. And to get Oner into position to actually set up a big sleep here is going to be tricky. They've got a lot of damage output in Kalista Corki on their double AD carry side that can eventually shred through those tanks, but it's going to be really tough if Genji can just stem the bleeding through the mid game, start to get some big items on the Ornn, the Cassante. It's hard to break through that. And Zeri would, if she was the AD carry in this comp, would feel very comfortable with 2 tanks, but you also have that Senna threat that's going to add extra sustain as well in team fights. I'm going to have to lean towards Genji in the draft here, but I think T1 do have an opportunity if they could snowball things early, get some big ults from Lilia in the mid game, and get too big to fail. There is a way that they actually stop this Genji composition before it really gets fully rolling.
Yeah, speaking of rolling, Lilia here for Oner, going up against Canyon's Nidalee. That's going to be a rough matchup. I do wonder, you know, how he is going to navigate that and see if he can make this Lilia pick make a bit more sense for all of us here in this first game. As we are ready, the top of the rip for T1 versus Genji.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
Off we go into the first game of this very hype matchup. T1 up against Genji once again, as the memes have already, you know, started happening again about T1 Genji being our finals.
Oh no.
Especially with T1 on the upswing. They kind of cooled off after T1 had their slump in the midseason here in summer, but they're back. And I'm also on that train as well, especially because Hanwha Life Esports, the main competitor for actually making it into the finals, also had some weak games recently. So, what do you think, Wolf?
I mean,
is it just our finals again?
I think it's too early to call, but I think this is going to be a really good gauge as to what's possible, right? If T1 look great here, even if they lose, you know, maybe they will be stronger than Hanwha. If they win, not only could they be the ones to make it to the finals, but also, you know, it's going to give you the feeling like maybe they could defeat Genji this time around after getting so close in spring. It was mentioned earlier, the Pays stats, by the way, I just want to refresh everyone on this. 3 kills away from being not only the youngest player to hit 1,000 kills, younger than Faker, but also the fastest in terms of fewest games played, he would also reach. So, you know, big milestone here, a little bit tougher to reach on the Senna, but 3 kills is all it's going to take as Faker ends up not really getting a great trade here in this level 1. This is definitely a pressure point where Oner could try to just go and use a, you know, set of abilities, you know, just Q, W, and then push Chovy back and give Faker an advantage. But otherwise, Chovy's just laning really well here, as you would expect so far in a matchup that can be quite tricky to play out for the Zeri in these first few levels.
Yeah, it actually looks like he's the one putting on the pressure. Faker not really focusing on trading with Chovy, just trying to hit all the CS. Meanwhile, there was a ward that spotted Nidalee going into Oner's jungle, and so Oner will know that he's got to go into Canyon's jungle here.
Chovy is pushing the wave so quickly that Fakers haven't used his Gatling gun to clear the minions and never able to use it to trade with Chovy. You saw in that last Gatling gun as well, Chovy's just able to walk it off and not take any damage. So Chovy just using the Q here to clear these as fast as possible with his autos, and then forcing Faker to Gatlin minions and not the champion. And that's when Corki's in that position, he's not feeling too great.
Yeah, I think the big thing about it is you can always choose your fights as Zeri, right? As Corki, it's like, okay, I'm Gatling gunning, I'm throwing in a bomb, and Zeri's just like, well, I'm just not going to interact with you until your cooldowns are on, on cooldown. As Pays has not lost a game on Senna ever in the LCK. And, ooh, that zap actually got him there. Faker struggling here in mid as Jonas Strong only wants to watch this matchup of 280 carries in mid lane, understandably.
Bottom lane will obviously favor the Kalista here, and Oner's over here will use this lane pressure to steal the Gromp away from Canyon. Won't be able to set up a dive as level 3 Lilia, not with the way the lane is going. Had, you know, Guma put a bunch of damage into one of these players, maybe he could have done something there, but not to be the case. Up here on the top side, you know, Zeus is holding his own, but it is not a huge advantage either way. Keen does have Cryo. It's really the mid lane where we're starting to see a matchup go very strongly in favor of Genji. And it's quite significant that he's going to get this fairly free laning phase against the Corki. Good CS here by Faker, though.
Yeah, he's keeping up. I think Corki is really easy to CS with, honestly. You can just use your Gatling gun. Even if you get pushed under turret, you can just weaken the range minions so that they just die to one auto attack and a turret shot. He's still being hard pushed under that turret by Chovy, making things a bit more difficult, which is why Faker will fall behind. The Lilia, by the way, very fast at farming, even right from the get-go.
Wants to stop this back so badly because Chovy will have the extra teleport advantage here, but doesn't end up getting in there to stop him. So just going to be a free TP. Might look for a Frost Bomb off it. And that's another thing Zeri could do that is good in this matchup, is just simply avoid those.
Yeah, just don't interact until you're ready to, until you go for the all-in. Keria going for a hook there when there is a massive minion wave. A little bit questionable, as Pei's going to use that range to just escort the wave in and harass a little bit. I don't think this bottom lane will be in a lot of trouble, but the Senna Ornn feels very nice, especially, you know, when we saw the blind Kalista coming through into just the Zeri, which we knew could be flex. As barrier going to have to be used here from Guma. Now he's rooted down, the spear nearly catches him as Guma, just cool as ever, doesn't have to flash or anything, but he is going to be pushed out of this wave.
Yeah, this is really rough. This is not what you want, and your Kalista into Senna lane is actually, you're the one who's being pressured by the enemy jungler. Now you see a rush up from Oner towards the top side of the map. He's going to ward there. I think the best he could hope for here is stopping Keen's back, and even that is looking unlikely. Drops the control ward here, and we'll get some consolation Krugs, as we like to call them here at the LCK. Chovy hits level 6. He bought a Cull, which is really indexing into our comp is going to be extremely strong later on. That's going to be a big swath of gold he's going to get. While he did put pressure on Faker, Faker kept the CS even. He doesn't really have a ton of kill pressure, even with his level 6 all-in opportunities. Faker will respect that, back off. But that just means that Chovy will get guaranteed big money soon. And I really just like that itemization here coming through, as see both of our junglers have gone for the Faded Ashes. Oner, with some topside control, will take away these grubs. Not the most significant game for side lane pressure with the Cassante Mordekaiser, but it is what you can get when your bottom side is a little bit in tatters.
Yeah, we'll see if any of our mid laners, you know, get a moment to push, but you're exactly right. I don't think that Mordekaiser and Cassante are going to be giant threats in the side lane unless Zeus gets massive or Keen does. But yeah, Chovy's just going to return here. We do have the trade of objectives, as the Cloud Drake did go the way of Gen G. We got Mountain on the way, so
Cassante can eat this pressure so easily up here in the top side as well. And Guma has basically just conceded the lane bottom side. And he may be able to get a plate, but with the lane swap protection, it's so much tougher to make this actually viable right now, especially into that beefy Cassante, who did, you know, itemize MR because he's, you know, laning into a Mordekaiser, but still, I think he will be able to stave off this pressure pretty well. Oner has level 6. I don't think he can really do much with it.
Just going to pressure a little bit, steal some popcorn chicken, and get away there. Faker taking a nice trade in mid, as the lane was pushing into Chovy. Chovy doesn't seem to, I don't know if he's been hit by one phosphorus bomb yet. I don't know if it's happened.
Yeah, I haven't really seen one myself. Plated Steel Caps allows Faker to feel a little bit more comfortable pushing forward like this. As let's see, Demolish is set here if he can grab a plate. Guess we won't see, but I'm keeping my eye on the minimap.
He's watching. The knockup's going to come in, a root as well, but this is Mordekaiser, who might just pull someone into the death chamber, as there it is. Lahen's in a bit of trouble, but actually there's just not enough time on the level 6 ult, so Zeus is going to back away. Meanwhile, Fate's Call is going to be used up in the top side, and a lot of action actually. Oner's on the top side here as well, trying to threaten Keen. All Out is down, but Zeus also being pressured under his turret. Who's going to be the first top laner to fall is really the question, as the sleep will come in, but the Senna ult helping a bit. A lot of tanking goes in from Guma, as Keen is very low, but no kill just yet. Another plate to go down, and finally it will come through. First Blood, and Zeus will go down as we expected, but First Blood does go to T1.
Now there's no teleport here to protect this top lane, so a lot of plate gold will go over to T1. The same could be true here in the bottom lane, though, as it's going to be Lahen's who backs away, no TP. Pei's going to try to pick up some solo plates here with a massive wave they have crashing. This ends up being a pretty good trade for T1 because they get both the First Blood as well as those additional plates topside, as Keen plays this incredibly well, pulling Keria into the Fate's Call, essentially, as that's traded there. That means he doesn't have his ultimate for Oner's follow-up here, Has a fantastic flash, though, as Guma takes a ton of aggro. The Senna ult comes through. And then look at the ramping turret damage here this early in the game. Oner loses half of his health bar, but they still juggle the follow-up incredibly well. Guma picks up the kill. Will pick up some plate gold. Zeus buys a ton of time here. He's losing a ton of farm, though, at the same time. And will be pays picking up plates in the exchange. He almost gets out here, but is eventually run down.
I think if he doesn't turn to get the grab and just dodges the spear, he might actually survive. Pace still had flash, so I feel like maybe Pace has to flash to get it, but perhaps, maybe, he does get away in some universe.
I think in a lot of ways you can contextualize this as a slight win for T1 in gold, and you can see that reflected in the total gold. The problem is that it's not the lead that you were hoping for. You didn't put the Senna down enough here in this Kalista lane because you thought maybe it was going to be a Zeri lane. It was, of course, flexed mid. And Genji is still a much stronger scaling team composition here, especially when you factor in the ornament. So while a small win here, I feel like the game state's still pretty even. Feels pretty good for Genji.
Yeah, I think at this point either team could run away with this one, but we'll have to wait and see how this mid game does play out at this point in time. Obviously a decent amount of scaling on the side of T1 as well, but I like that you highlight the ornaments that will come out from Lehens. Just another bonus on top of a pretty strong lane that is Senna Ornn. As we look at mid once again, we're not seeing it as much, but you can see that Faker is, holding his own at this point in time. Might have a little grubs fight here as Genji are trying to get some of their own, and Guma forced to flash down on the bottom side by himself. But with Oner up on the top side here, they might be able to pick up 5 grubs for the side of T1, as it looks like they will. Yeah,
that's a pretty huge win here for T1. Able to get this. Yes, they lost a flash bottom side, but that won't necessarily end up being too impactful. And 5 grubs, if a Corki or a Kalista gets some alone time with a turret, will end up being quite significant. Again, tough to do in this team composition. Canyon. Yeah. Should be fine. Doesn't care.
He's actually pressuring Keria as a bowling ball just awkwardly rolls by. Canyon wants nothing to do with that. He is a billiards fan.
Aren't we all?
Which I guess does have, balls that roll over the table. So maybe not the best. He's a hockey fan, an ice hockey fan.
Sure. Yeah, Faker's really turned this lane around. After the plated steel caps has been able to put a little bit of pressure on. Now that Chovy has an item, though, he's going to put more pressure on. A lot of stats in that Shiv, as well as extra wave clear. Faker almost all in there. Chovy has his ultimate and flash. Faker's weathered the storm a few times in this lane. Took back control, now weathering again as Keria comes up.
Now Chovy is Zeri and had the ability to get away there, but just doesn't even bother as the hook does miss. We do have this Mountain Drake spawned, and Chovy is putting on an immense amount of pressure in mid. We do have TP available for Faker, so maybe he just TPs back in and they try to fight for this, but we'll see how this fight does go for the Mountain Drake as Oner is set up in position to go for it.
Chovy got that extra plate Shiv early. It gave him that advantage in that matchup of that last little skirmish, and now his call is finishing. So he's just in such a good spot here. The Corki's going to take a lot longer to come online. We'll need that 2-item spike. I mean, not to say that Zeri is ready to team fight, but she's certainly ready to push mid and get prio. T1 will, however, get this, as it looks like Genji more interested in pushing plates bottom side, not willing to take a fight. They already bought 5 minutes of time with that first dragon. I say that, though. Lehens is going to come over and mess around. Does have Unseal, but no smite set, and they are just going to give this up.
Yeah, pretty surprising. I mean, they got a plate and bot. Maybe 2. I think it's just 1, actually, as it's Ocean Soul. So their gamble will kind of pay off. I think the amount of poke that you have from Senna, Zeri, and Nidalee will be very annoying if it gets offset by a lot of Ocean Drakes for T1, but it's just the 1 Mountain Drake that goes to T1, and I suppose you are getting paid some extra solo farm at the end of the day, so decent trade.
I think it's also just a decision that Genji make. Paze is sitting on just 1 Dirk, your Zeri's on a Shiv, and you don't want to fight into a Kalista comp right then. That's a Phosphorus Bomb hitting.
Yeah, it does. As Chovy certainly threatening to go for an ult. Had Canyon nearby as well, closer than Oner, as we know. So wasn't scared to take that trade by any means.
Certainly not. Oner does have his Leandries a little bit faster than we do see from Canyon. Won't necessarily matter if he's not able to fight any enemy champions, as it's Canyon is putting the pressure on. In fact, here's stopping his back. And Rylai's is done here for Mordekaiser, so You know, this is a very strong moment for T1, even though the Corki isn't quite online. I think Genji should respect it.
Faker doing a bit of damage, but also takes some of his own, and they have the sustain from Senna and Italy. We have seen this combo before where it's like, okay, you want to poke on us, but then we just heal everything because we have double healing champions that are also fantastic in the later stage of the game. But either way, we are going to get this TP up from the side of Zeus, as it does look like they do want to go for the fight. Keen just in the front line trying to zone this one away as the smite. Where will it go? It does go to Genji as Lens is in the death chamber, but he is still alive. Zeus in that front line trying to take down this Oner, and it might be able to, but no. Does get rooted up. Meanwhile, Keen will go down. Faker does pick up that kill as the Rift Herald did go to Genji.
Really a split read here from T1. They sent Zeus bottom. They had Kalista pushing top, and then they suddenly opted to fight. They ended up winning the fight, and they got a kill onto Keen, but they lost the objective. Guma looks like he's still going to be able to get this turret after winning the ensuing fight, but it looked like T1 were just going to give and try to get advantages in top and bottom instead. But late committed to the fight, and then we're still successful there. Again, Corki not very strong just yet, but the Mordekaiser ult is game-changing when you can just pull an Ornn out of the fight. Then you have, of course, a ton of damage output at this stage in the game. You can see Genji have Keen set to frontline here. Lehens drops the Ornhorn down, but is pulled by Keria here, so unable to activate it. And then you see Guma doing tons of damage to Keen, who's forced to flash. A very late combo to the objective by T1, a very late join. They still end up grabbing the kill onto Keen, still get that top turret, and they just don't want to give Genji any more time-buying tools. Unfortunately, though, the Herald did go over, looks like charged mid.
Yeah, did a bunch of damage to this mid turret, but the first turret blood did go the way of T1 up on that top side. That was Guma that after the one fight and the kill, they say, okay, we can use this to get some extra gold, and it's actually T1 that are in the lead of gold after that play. So still very much this game is hanging in the balance. We don't really know who's going to take it by the end of it, but still very even as T1 strike back in the top lane. Still no turret taken for Genji themselves, although there are a couple of weakened turrets that they might look at in mid and bot.
It's really interesting, the tank itemization as well here for Genji, because you opted into MR in the matchup into the Mordekaiser as Keen. You have the Rooker, and then, of course, Lehens laning into the Kalista, opted into the Frozen Heart. So you have one MR tank, you have one armor tank in this situation. So target selection, I think, will be pretty important here for T1 when we get to some of these fights. Obviously, they could both get their weakened part. You know, Keen could build some armor, and we could see some MR for Lehens later on. But at the moment, that is kind of a binary itemization they do have at this moment in time. Triforce is done here for Faker, and his tiers well stacked, but he doesn't really have the pieces of the Muramana just yet. That's going to be, I think, where T1 really want to hit hard. So when they hit that 2-item spike for the Corki, 50 seconds until this dragon spawns here. Genji looking to group.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, especially because T1 are going to have this extra strength, whereas Genji, they want like 2-3 items on the Zeri. Chovy hasn't really had his moment. He's farming well. And then they also have the Senna that at this point in the game is just kind of slowly falling behind, not getting a lot of levels, not getting a lot of farm, obviously. And so for Genji, they want to wait. They want to sit back, whereas T1 are like, okay, we want to hit this Corki spike hard. So we'll see how these two things clash, especially with the Ocean Soul. I think that Genji can give a couple of Drakes away and not feel too bad about it. But let's see how the fights actually break out.
Yeah, the Ocean Soul is going to feel pretty good into Spear Poke, you know, but otherwise not too impactful as Keria. Ooh!
Yeah, it's going to be a catch here on a Keria, who is in a bit of trouble as the Fate's Call will have to be used and does get him out of dodge. Meanwhile, Keria elects to go back in and nearly takes a huge chunk of damage from the spear.
I love how Lehens predicted, of course, the Fate's Call is going to come out and just sends the ult to Guma. He's like, all right, okay. Faker looking for an all-in here, potentially pushing Chovy away. Like you mentioned, Chovy just doesn't really have any items yet. He has the Shiv, which is good wave clear, but the Triforce here for Faker is where he's really going to start to put his mark in this side lane. And the Dragon is live. However, neither team having enough control to really contest. Lehens doesn't have ultimate. They're very aware of this, but he's still a strong front line here. And it's a bit of a late group. Faker backed, did buy his Warhammer. As a little bit of indecision.
Looks like Genji do want to fight for this, actually. They see Oner starting it. A bit of poke already coming down on Oner. That's a massive spear getting him down towards half health, as maybe T1 will reconsider. But no, they've got all 5 members around this area. So now Lehens is going to walk towards a Kalista. Got to be careful about that, as Guma will punish quite a bit. Looks like a 5v5 brewing for this first Ocean Drake.
Yeah, looks like it. Again, Lehen's no ultimate here. That's very critical. But the spears here are the neutral fight that Gen.G can offer. Yeah, they have a big front line, and their Zeri isn't online just yet. But if T1 are indecisive and a few spears land, that's Dragon going over, and Keen's pushing forward.
Yeah, Keen trying to catch Faker. That's not going to work out. Now he just gets hooked and has to flash away. The sleep is coming in, and Keen is just dead as Oner will pick up that kill. Keen very over-aggressive in that moment, trying to start a fight onto Valkyrie. Corki, as now Gen.G still trying to fight for this one 4v5. They have the poke, but at the end of the day, they're just going to have to give it up.
His ult is almost here, but I think without it, you just can't win this one. You got to leave, and that they will. Jovi trying to trade this for a turret. It's super low. It looks like he will get away with this. He can just slide over the wall. If anyone tries to go for a punish, will scout with his extendo. This might be a bridge too far.
Yeah, they're actually trying to ult this as well. Just... Is it actually a zoning ult? I mean, they've got Senna here, they've got Oren. They're just trying to cut T1 off from trying to defend the mid turret. As meanwhile, they're going to have Keen TP down to the bottom lane to stop this turret from going down.
It was a pretty peculiar decision from Keen to try to engage there in that last fight. I feel like Gen.G were in prime position to continue to poke and continue to utilize those Nidalee spears to slow T1 down. And then once T1 get corralled on the pit, that's when you go in. That's when they don't really have a lot of space. And unfortunately, he just went straight in there. T1, great punish. Chovy will get the turret in return. But it's at this moment here where Keen goes unstoppable and tries to go on to Faker. Doesn't have his unstoppable to get away. Has to flash. The sleep comes through. Almost looks like Paze kills him, ironically, but he's trying to give him some additional shielding there to actually survive the damage. And that's the Dragon going over. Rift Sculler is also taken by Gen.G.
Yeah, Jonas Strong really wanted to hammer that point home that Gen.G got the Rift Scuttler. Yeah, I mean, it was probably like a fight over it or something, and maybe Canyon just speared it. Not 100% sure. As we were watching the replay, I feel like Keen as well, he also could have just hooked, or rather flashed the Keria hook as well. It felt like he was very confident that they were going to win that fight, even if he did miss the stun, but
the other problem,
yeah, he just got caught up big time.
The problem for him, too, is if you look at his itemization, it's all... You know, for the most part, MR that he had at that moment did have plated steel caps, but, you know, he's just not as tanky as K'Sante could be in an AD matchup with the Rooker in there, and just ends up kind of getting chunked down. Faker's transformation is complete. Muramana is done. This is the 2-item spike. They're not going to be able to take a Baron with it, although, you know, if you're a T1 fan, you're like, maybe we could. Maybe not in this case, but you definitely can put a lot of pressure on this next Dragon fight in 3 minutes' time.
They do actually have an insane amount of Baron damage with Callista, Lilia, and Corki, and they also have Mordekaiser to trap Canyon. I mean, maybe if the timing is right, yeah.
It's not impossible.
It's still extremely early, but maybe.
I mean, Gen.G are aware of this possibility, and that, you know, T1's nature around 20-minute Barons. You know, it's 22 minutes in, 2-item spike for Corki. So they are putting a lot of vision. They are grouped around this Baron. And like you say, with Rend and the Mordekaiser ult, you could do some fancy footwork there, but if you end up trying to take Baron and failing, the game basically ends as Hook comes through.
Yeah, that is Lehens. He's got some backup this time around. There have been a couple of awkward moments. Now the ult is going to be sent into the Oren as now the TP comes in. Lehens is dead though. I mean, this is no way for him to get out. That's a pick on a Lehens, and now T1 absolutely could consider this Baron, but still a very even game, and it looks like they just want to go for mid tier 1 instead. Guma just gonna flash because he went the wrong way.
Yeah,
wanted to go very fast to mid, I guess, and well, he will get in there as Keen gonna be pulled back by the Mordekaiser. Gotta be careful, getting very low.
I mean, he has that Rooker, but it's not gonna last too long against all this magic damage, the AP damage coming through. They get the kill onto Lehens. He has teleport, doesn't have his ultimate, which was shut down again in that fight, so no value there. But I think that T1's still going to respect the possibility that, you know, if they try to do this Baron, Gen.G wins a team fight, it's lights out. With said teleport, Gen.G are going to clear the vision and force T1 to come. Yeah, they're going to force T1 to come here. Zeus has TP, but they've got to be quick about this. It is a Senna, mind you, but T1, they're very aware of this, but they just don't have vision.
I feel like this Baron is too slow. I don't know. They just don't quite have the same amount of damage, and it's still very early, but yeah, they forced T1 over.
They got a TP, and
they
now
got the TP.
Keen gets a turret, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. That's a good trade for Gen.G. They will just send Zeus down there.
Runins is done for Chovy. I mean, he's starting to build towards some lifesteal here. The Zeri is starting to come online, and I keep mentioning the Zeri, you know, because if T1 don't get to have the fights they want with this Kalista Corki 2-item spike on the Corki, then Gen.G just becomes so difficult because their comp is so robust. But if you fight like this and you're super split and you don't clear all your teleport wards, then Lehens will just die again here in this game. He's cut off. Keen wasn't there. It's a really unfortunate moment there for Gen.G. They aren't able to take Baron. Gen.G start a Baron, they get a teleport, get a turret. Very close game still.
Yeah, TP now into mid. This one from Chovy, so not the biggest steal in the world. Doesn't look like he wants to be on the split push at all. Wants to be ready to go if we do start up a fight right away. And it seems like Gen.G want to do exactly that here on this Ocean Drake.
Lehens has Smite set on his Unsealed. He's ready to potentially double smite this one with Canyon here. A lot of damage. That combo very difficult to steal this one away as T1. Chovy?
Oh, the ult here from Keria. They're going to catch Chovy, and he should be going down. Down he goes. As meanwhile, Gen.G trying to do something in mid, but Guma's just hopping away. Keen trying to go 1v3 here, nearly takes down Faker. But at the end of the day, it's 2 kills for the side of T1. Keria still on the chase here. Lehens in a lot of trouble against this Kalista. And slowly and surely he's going to survive, actually. Does not burn down.
They're looking for a Baron.
Maybe gonna go for it. Faker's doing the dragon for some reason.
He does not have teleport, and I don't know if they saw him. It looks like he was seen on the ward. Gen.G do know. They're gonna come over here and contest this. Lehens has no ult though. This is gonna be a Hail Mary. He has Smite, but no flash.
Yeah. How does he get over the wall? Well, I guess he's just gonna try to walk in from the top side. That's not gonna happen. You might just have to go over to Canyon on the steal as the spear really catches it, but no, with the Kalista, an easy secure here for T1.
T1's punish game has been so good this game. They see a target out of position, and they are not afraid to collapse. Keria, he's playing Nautilus. We talked about Nautilus, Kalista. Keria's been a good Nautilus, and he wasn't landing into the Zeri, so we didn't really mention it. But of course, obviously in team fights, Nautilus is one of the oldest counters in the book to Zeri. Point and click, set up the knockup. Very easy to lock Chovy down there, and Gen.G's setups have been a little bit rocky, to say it nicely. They will be able to, it looks like, even up the dragons here, but it feels like a consolation prize in comparison to T1's Baron. When you consider the amount of map control it's going to come with it, and the fact that it's just a second Ocean Drake here. So you got something back at least, but T1, this is the lead you wanted to snowball. They found their moment. Yeah. Now they're going to start ripping this mid turret off the map.
And if you remember their matchup in round 1, the longest game we had was 26 minutes. Gen.G just smothered them in 2 games. One was 26, one was 24. So now T1 up against Gen.G, finally putting up a good fight, and perhaps Gen.G just weren't quite ready for this level of fight, you know? T1 are certainly bringing their A game today as well. They're going to lose the blue for some reason. Canyon just going to take that down with the spear. And so far this Baron push has been a little bit lackluster. We're finally going to get 1 turret that does go down in mid.
Yeah, Chovy's not here with his shift to help clear the wave. Had to go topside, is coming back now, doesn't have teleport. T1 really wanted to actually snowball this into a pick, it looked like. They were forcing their way into the jungle, trying to take away that blue buff. As it all comes down to this moment from Keria, he's got flash, flashes, ults, hooks him, calling out. He has no flash as they focus on. He's just watching. He's watching his Kalista on the other side. That's a support AD carry duo right there. He gets the kill. He looks right at his buddy. He's like, "It's going okay for you over there, right? They're pushing on you. I'm coming."
Yeah.
Keria so clean with the call. Great flash engage. Big punish onto Chovy, and that's the gold lead kind of ballooning here now for T1.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things for T1 that they were struggling with was I think that Keria was a bit kind of all over the place. His calls were not crisp. He would sometimes just kind of die for no reason in some of their other matches. But it really feels like today he's got his head on straight, and if he's got that, well, I say that, now he's a bit caught alongside a Guma. As they're trying to get onto Guma, Keria is just going to get his fates called away, and double TP are coming in. T1 trying to turn the fight as the ult goes in. The death chamber onto Chovy, and there's more line. That third triple knockup comes in from Keen as he's going to knock that one. Faker's just chasing Canyon into the jungle, but he's not going to help out his team until right now. Misses the Valkyrie over the wall and is not able to get on in there. Not even sure if he wanted to really get on in there as Gen.G, they're turning this game around, trying to take down Oner now, who is a bit alone. Finally, Faker will come over and try to punish, takes out Keen, and he might just have the damage, forces the flash from Pays, so that they have to get away from this one. Oner still on the chase. looking for a bowling ball as actually it's Faker, who does get in there with one auto.
One auto's enough. And that's it. I mean, that's rapid fire cannon damage coming through here from Faker. Chovy going to try to look for a punish here onto Oner potentially, but I think a bit optimistic. As they just were split there on the call. Keen once again kind of going in, hoping he could take Oner out in the 1v1 because he's got so much MR even though he was low. Lehens?
Yeah, Lehens TPing in, but we have Keria nearby as well. I think actually Gen G have to back away from this one.
Yeah, bit of a disaster.
Uh-oh, yeah, Lehens might just be dead. No flash, and really no hope. Gets a heal from the Nidalee and then just dies. And the TP, a bit desperate to say the least. T1 still in control.
I mean, these frontliners have been punished so hard by T1 this game. 1 in 5 for Keen, 0 in 3. Lehens caught multiple times this game trying to make plays. Keria?
Yeah, speaking of trying to make plays, we saw a pretty good one from Keen in the last fight, but at the end of the day, ooh, Hookah's gonna miss. If he hits that wall, I think maybe he just gets run down by Gen G.
Keria's had such a great game. Faker and Keria both, 9 out of 11 KP here in this one. This fight was super broken up, very messy. The double TP here, Keria looks like he's a little bit out of position, but with double TP, you can turn the numbers game on this one real fast. Guma actually gets out of the engage, has the Fates call to pull Keria back in and use him as a secondary engage tool. Keen ends up hitting a really big knockup here. Zeus is unable to punish Chovy, so it looks for a moment here, okay, FaZe's ult's going down. This is a lost fight for T1 because the front to back is so strong, but Faker kills the Nidalee, and he was like, oh, wait, we are still fighting? I'm going to show up. Messed up the Valkyrie, that part wasn't great, but it feels like in this moment, there's a bit of a split call. Like, Chovy's moving right here, doesn't come down quickly, he's scared of Faker. Keen's still going in, maybe could have waited for FaZe there a little bit, and then Faker just shows up, cleans up house. Very broken up, but very solid turn here from T1. I think if Faker hadn't chased Nidalee, maybe the fight's even more one-sided, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, though, eliminating the Nidalee early means a lot of less heals, a lot of less damage. I think that Canyon's got some pretty good farm and some items, so at least he does get him out of the fight. As Lehens, not again, my God, not again. As take a look at the gold differences here. Actually, a pretty big one as Oner. I mentioned that Canyon was decently fed, but Oner is certainly very far ahead of him at this point.
He has his Zonias, so I mean, he's somewhat tanky and can really set up big ultimates, especially when he has flash like he does now.
All right, let's see the angle here. Keria's on the backside. Will flash over the wall as now maybe a sleep to come in. That did hit 2 people, but that is just Cassante. Now the turn coming in, and Keria's way too far forward, but he's very tanky. Does he have the items? And yeah, he's got Fate's Call as well as Oner trying to chip away at that front line. But Keria is too far in the front, and down he will go. Lehens and Keen still alive.
Level 18 Chovy, front to back.
He's waiting. He is waiting. He's hunting for that moment. Another spear is going to land, and here comes Chovy over the wall just to immediately be put in the death chamber up against the Mordekaiser. Gets countered by the Mordekaiser. Oner going in by himself. Keen does take down one, but he will fall as well, and now Oner on the chase here. Should eventually be able to take these two out, I would imagine, or at least keep them around in time for Guma to come over. As the Lilia so slippery, just gonna run away. That's fine as well.
1,700 damage for Oner in the fight. He did so much with Leandri's, just constantly applying that to these frontline tanks. And now T1, eyes on the Baron here potentially. TP coming through from Faker, who picked up IE, his 4th item after that last fight. Great ultimate there from Zeus. He won't have it for this one to keep Canyon out of the pit, but he doesn't have flash, so it's a one-way trip.
Faker's just so fed. I mean, like, he's disabled a Valkyrie into people now. He's 5-0-7 matching Oner, who's also throwing bowling balls over the wall.
He's so late.
So low. Yeah, there's just no way Gen G can get in.
Yeah, and Lens just TPs to clear ward. T1, I feel like, pretty much locked this one up. Looking back at this fight, Keria goes in super deep, right? And it looks like, okay, the front to back is online. FaZe and Chovy are going to get it done. But it's the ult from Zeus happens in a moment's time here after Keria goes down. When Chovy chases and goes in, that just prevents him from really getting any value in this fight. It talked about how there's not great targets. It's hard to get on top of the Zeri as the Mordekaiser. But if the Zeri gets on top of you, then it's a lot easier. And then Chovy is just instantly out of the fight. FaZe is trying to offer back some additional damage, but it's really just his ult. There's too many threats here, and Oner's Leandri's damage is just ticking on everybody as Faker, with that assistance of Zeus pulling Chovy out of the fight, is able to help clean up house, and Oner almost goes down here, but is able to buy enough time, as you say, for those 80 carries to come up. They get a Baron off of this, and now we're talking about inhibitors here. They have really been able to make this comp work, hit its spikes, and then snowball incredibly well after some good punishes. I think that call to go in like that from Chovy is one he will definitely regret.
Yeah, you know, when I first saw the draft, I wasn't convinced, but thinking about it more, the Lilia take damage alongside a Morellonomicon against double healing champs and double tank, especially from ahead, it's just so impressive. Like Gen G, they're trying to heal through the damage, they're trying to tank, but their front lines just get absolutely melted. You mentioned it was like 10k damage that Oner did in that last fight. It's absolutely absurd. You just don't see numbers like that.
Yeah, not on a
Unless
Lilia.
it's Ezreal.
Yeah, on an Ezreal, sure. And I mean, on a team fight that long where he's just constantly applying that burn. He has a Rift Maker too, so he's got some sticking power, you know, with the Zhonya's. I wouldn't go as far as to call it like Dead Man's Plate tank Lilia like we've seen in the past, but she's relatively tanky here. And now Jaxo, speaking of tanky here for Guma, and I think they feel like with these Morellonomicon applications that he's able to get so consistently, they can just outlast in these team fights. The Mordekaiser being able to just isolate a single target, namely, you know, if it's Chovy, that's fantastic because he's the one who has to really get the damage done. Pays is getting more range, right? He has his LDR. He is a threat, somewhat, but it's still not the same kind of threat that Chovy is, and he can't get it done alone.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we're here in this spot where it looks like T1 are pretty much on the doorstep of winning game number 1. They haven't taken an inhibitor yet, and they still are going up against Ornaments. As Faker's just going to be caught out and just killed. Down he goes, right as I was saying it. Gen G trying to fight their way back into this game. As they do get that pick, and now Keria just going to try to peel for the team. They have to use Fate's Call. Meanwhile, in mid, Zeus wants this inhibitor.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to get it, though. T1 just going to use these empowered recalls to back. Zeus can't actually commit any further. He is Mordekaiser after all. It would take him a few autos to get through that one. It's finally a moment where Lehends is able to punish. They know Faker has no flash. He Valkyrie's early here in panic, and I mean, there's not much he can do. He's so far up. But once a Valkyrie's down, it's just an easy lockup here for Lehends. And then their owner's like, well, maybe I'll start burning them. Not this time. And they also lose Fate's Call, which is an extremely long cooldown here for this next Dragon fight. Sole point here for T1. And
yeah, that Oner is just going to be pulled back into the team. The Cassante gets the jump on him, and Oner is dead. And now Gen G have prevented the Ocean Soul, which would have been massive up against all this foe.
They're trying to push maybe mid here to get an inhibitor in return, but again, it's so risky. By the way, 1,000 kills, fewest games, youngest player. FaZe gets it done here. He's the one that secures that one. But they don't get the inhibitor like you said. They lose the Dragon here. That's 5 more minutes of time for Ornaments to come through. And I feel like T1 were really pushing the train almost all the way to the station. They had the snowball rolling. This is just a little bit too greedy. You don't have full vision of this area. It's Ocean Rift. There's a lot of bushes, but this was unfortunately a big overstep from Oner. That's the Dragon going over. They get no inhibitor in return. And if Gen G could just weather the storm a little bit longer, this comp is unbelievably strong. They have QSS for Chovy.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the gold now. It's taken a big plummet there on the graph, and it's partially because there were a couple of shutdowns. They got the Faker one in top, and then they just got Oner in bot. So it's a lot of extra gold going into your carries. Pays, you know, he just got fewest kills, 1,000 kill. Well, guess what his 1,000th kill was? It was on the super fed Lilia. So a ton of gold goes over to the Senna, who is out of her trough and is ready to go. Level 15, almost 16. And Gen G, I mean, there's a world now where they win this game.
Yeah, no, they absolutely could. Especially if they start getting some map control back here. Baron in a minute. Yeah, he is huge. He has 160 extra range, plus 80% critical strike. Yeah, I mean, he's quite large, and his follow-up damage is real. If T1 don't get the jump on a single target, and without map control, it's much tougher for Keria to make those heroic plays they're making all game long. And it's not like they've lost everything, but Gen G are now actually starting to take it away. They're putting that vision in the river near Baron. Baron's up in 30 seconds. You know, some critical ultimates have come back online. Guma does have the Fate's Call. Oner could set up a big sleep here. He's got his Zhonya's. But Gen G, I mean, all it takes is a struggle to get Mordekaiser into position, and Chovy gets to have the front to back he almost had on that Dragon moments before.
Yeah.
And then this composition works the way we've been saying. If we get to the late game, it will. It's very late game. We're almost 40 minutes in. But now that T1 have lost map control, Gen G have a chance to seal the deal here.
Yeah, and maybe Gen.G's read on this meta is that a lot of games recently have been going very long, and this comp really does kind of outlast. It just goes the distance, and it just keeps on going. The Senna, the unlimited scaling, and the Ornn with all the ornaments, you just get kind of out of control eventually, and Gen.G are so good against really strong teams at coming back from deficits and just never letting go of the game and just getting all the gold even from behind. And here we are again in a situation where it looked like T1 were just going to win and run away, and it was going to be a really big upset and really make the series interesting. But now Gen.G feel like they're back in control.
Yeah, it's still interesting. It's not over yet, but Gen.G making the plays.
Yeah, they're trying to isolate this front line, actually, trying to get on top of the Mordekaiser. But now Faker going to go into the fight and immediately just die as Toby will take him down and punish Faker in the mid lane, as now Zeus has to go into this one. We do have a sleep as well. Lilia, Oner trying to do the damage, but this front line is just so tanky. Oner, though, going to go golden. Is it enough as Guma soloing down Keen? It's a very close fight, but at the end of the day, you see Chovy and you see Pays on nearly full health. And Gen.G, it looks like they may have just done it again.
Yeah, looks like they may have. It's been a few games this season that Gen.G been brought to the brink. It looked like maybe it's another win, it's another loss for Gen.G, but maybe it's not today, maybe it's not in this first game. The flyby extendo beam is going to miss. It looks like Oner gets out with his life, but that's not going to stop this Baron from going down. And there's a lot of standing gold, not that they really needed 40 minutes into the game here in all of these turrets. That means T1 will have some extra bastions of defense, but look at how awkward this setup is here for T1. Oner goes up to try to clear the wave. He's completely away from his team. While this is going down, Faker's not here.
Valkyrie into the fight?
Yeah, you Valkyrie forward here, you're doomed. But he has to try to close the gap, because if he doesn't get any closer, he's doomed. I mean, damned if you do, damned if you don't. If he just walks away there, they lose the 5v4. I don't think he should have Valkyried in. I'm not going to defend it. But I also think that he realized the panic of the really bad setup his team had there, while Oner is just going up as Lilia to clear the wave. Sloppy setup here for T1, and they just get pulled apart. That's Baron for Gen.G. And at this late stage of the game, they can group as 4-1 here. They might be able to actually take the first inhibitor of this series.
Yeah. They only got one grub, you remember from the early game where not a lot was happening. But take a look at the actual human nexus that is Pays right now. He is a turret, and nobody can get on top of him. Nobody can close the gap between them and the Senna, and everybody on the side of T1 is just taking massive poke damage. Nobody can escape the wrath that is Pays right now. And, you know, he's got 1,000 kills. He's got over 1,000 assists now as well in the LCK. And Gen.G, off of the backs of him in this very strong late game comp, might just end the game here. Keria, desperate to try to stop the push from coming in. Faker doing a lot of damage, but immediately the heals come in.
So many minions starting to stack up here. Great front line. Pays could just hit Faker from so far away.
Yeah, there's just no way for him to ever fight that 1v1. Keria trying to stop the wave. Guma trying to do it as well. As down will go Chovy, but there's a second, even stronger AD carry that's left over. It is Pays on Senna. As okay, got a little sleep coming in. Trying to delay. Faker trying to get on in here, but Oner just falls, and immediately Faker will as well. Canyon might go down. No, he is actually going to live somehow. Gen.G take game 1 in 42 minutes.
A very